you're the Europe strategist, so I wonder where Germany is positioned in terms of the positioning and really where exactly what kind of assets that you like in this particular market, and what place does this particular market hold in your overall Europe portfolio?
So obviously, Germany's an economic powerhouse in Europe and generally speaking drives growth in Europe. That's not happening so far in the last year as Germany has its own problems and economically it's lagging some of the other nations in Europe. That being said, it's a powerhouse in industrial segment, and in the industrial segment things are very mixed at the moment. Some firms are very much struggling, the more commoditized firms, and other firms in Germany, industrial firms that are exposed to structural themes like energy transition, AI, data centers, things like this. Those are the firms that are still generating pretty strong earnings in Q2 from what we've seen this year. So I think it's a bit of a minefield out there, but there's definitely some attractive investments in Germany and in the industrial segment in particular.
There was this talk of concentration on just a few stocks in the German stock market we're talking about here, and that seemed to be a problem for some. Is this still the case in the stock market in Germany? And what would be your advice in terms of chasing those gains? For example, SAP up 42% year to date. Do you recommend going with these names that have worked so far this year, or look elsewhere at this point?
So I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head with the concentration point. It's something that we've discussed quite heavily in Europe and even with my colleagues in the US of late. If you look at the European market, it's quite heavily concentrated as a whole, not even the German market, in kind of 10 names. It makes up about 30% of the market. And in Germany, obviously, the DAX can be even more concentrated and reliant upon names that have been successful. SAP, like you mentioned, is one of those stocks. Unfortunately, SAP is one of those stocks that we believe is quite overvalued at the moment. So those gains that you mentioned have pushed that valuation up just a little bit too high. So we wouldn't recommend getting involved in SAP at the moment. We think that's an overvalued stock. But generally speaking, if you work your way further down the index, there's still kind of relative opportunities.